Hello, welcome to Bits and Biology. My name's Liz, and in this video, I'm going to talk about my favorite nature-themed solo games that fall into the light to medium weight category. Specifically, I'm going to talk about my top 10. There will be another video where I talk about my top 5 in the medium to heavyweight category. And I just wanted to say that both of these videos were a special request from a Patreon supporter, so shout out to Jen, who has been a longtime Patreon supporter of mine. I also want to say why I split this list into two different lists, so the light to medium and the medium to heavy, and that's because I had a really hard time comparing the solo play experience of the heavier games to the lighter games. So I just decided to split it into two lists because that was just too hard. So here we have the top 10 in the light to medium weight category. I do want to start with a few caveats, and that is that, of course, this list is entirely subjective. These are my top 10 favorite nature-themed solo games in the light to medium weight category. Also, I've not played all of the nature-themed games out there, let alone played all of them solo. I haven't even actually played all of my nature-themed games solo. So a couple of examples that come to mind are Trekking the National Parks, which you can barely see down there, and Trailblazers. I haven't played either one of those solo, so they might have made the list. I did choose out of a list of 43 nature-themed games that I have played solo, so just to let you know sort of where this is coming from. And I also just want to say that I would love to hear what your favorite nature-themed solo games are, so please let us know that down in the comments. Without further ado, let's get started. Coming in at number 10 is Lands of the Mesozoic. I have played Lands of the Mesozoic 4 times. 2 of those plays have been solo. It doesn't get to the table as often as I'd like because it's a little bit of a longer game. I do have a playthrough of this up on the channel. If you want to see my very detailed thoughts, I'll go into a little bit of detail here for each of the games, but I do have videos, I think, for all of these up on the channel. Anyway, I also talked about it a bit in the August and September 2024 vlogs. This is a tableau building, hand management, and set collection game. It has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.2, an average rating on Board Game Geek of 7.2, and my rating of it is a 9.3. I love this game, and actually, if I had played it more times solo, it might have gone up on this list. So we'll have to see. Maybe I'll do this again next year. So in Lands of the Mesozoic, players create and manage their own Mesozoic ecosystem, and they're doing this using 3 types of cards that represent different trophic levels. These are land cards or habitat cards representing the producers, herbivores, and carnivore cards. The game is played over 3 periods, each consisting of multiple rounds, with a major extinction event after the first 2 periods. On your turn, you can play a card, activate a card you've already played, or once per round, you can discard any 2 cards from your hand to draw 2 land cards or 1 herbivore or carnivore card. Players take turns each round until all players have passed. So the solo game is a beat your own score type of game with scoring targets and a list of achievements that you can work towards. So it does give you a little bit of a challenge there with those list of achievements, but other than that, it is beat your own score. And what's more, in the solo game, your turn is going to look the same as it does in the multiplayer game. So I love the way that this game sort of mimics real life or stays true to the biology. It requires a balance between habitat and the herbivores and the carnivores. And I also love that under certain conditions, you can get rid of cards off of your tableau. It's a mechanism where you extinct them, but then you can still count those points later. So that's really unique. This game gets compared a lot to Wingspan. And while it does have some things in common with it, it's definitely its own game, and I really enjoy it. There are 118 unique animal cards, and there's information about each of those animals in a booklet that comes along with the game. These are mostly dinosaurs, but there are actually a few other types of animals mixed in there. And the artwork for this game is stunning. It is all done by an award-winning paleo artist. So the board and all of the cards, everything absolutely gorgeous. So that is number 10, Lands of the Mesozoic. Coming in at number 9 is a favorite of a lot of people, and that is Cascadia. I have played Cascadia more than 31 times. So I have 31 plays recorded, but I didn't start recording plays until January of 2022, and we actually got this game in October of 2021. I've played it at least 10 times solo, but like I said, probably more than that. I do have a playthrough for this up on the channel, as well as mentioned it in the March, April, May, and July 2024 vlogs. So if you want my detailed thoughts, you can go back and look at those. And I always include timestamps for all of my videos. And this is going to be true for all. I think I have playthroughs for all of these videos up on the channel, so I'll provide links down in the description. This is a family game, very family-friendly, beginner-friendly game. It is a tile placement game with open drafting. It plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes. It has an average Board Game Geek weight of 1.86, an average rating of 7.9, and my rating of it is a 9. So in Cascadia, players are taking turns drafting a pair of a habitat tile and a wildlife token from a display of 4 pairs. And they're using this to build their own landscape and earning points by placing the wildlife in specific patterns and also by creating connected areas of each of the 5 different habitats. So this game is set in the Pacific Northwest, which is where I grew up. So I was immediately attracted to this game. It is a relaxing, puzzly game that has definitely become a family favorite, and it plays well at all player counts. I think I've played this at all player counts. It includes 15 solo scenarios, which is really fun. So each of those scenarios require you to use a specific set of wildlife scoring cards and also to meet specific goals. You can also play a more relaxed, just basic beat your own score solo mode. And I just love the puzzly nature of trying to connect all of your habitats and work out your animal tokens and putting those in the patterns and sort of thinking ahead to do that. But then you have to be able to pivot on a dime to change depending on what other people take. Or if you're playing the solo game, there'll be a tile and a token that disappear each round off of the display, although it's a little more predictable in the solo game, which also adds into your puzzly thinking. Anyway, that is number 9, Cascadia. Coming in at number 8 is Finspan. I've played Finspan 9 times. 6 of those times have been solo, and I've actually only owned this for maybe a month, I think. So it's definitely a really fun solo game, and it's a fun multiplayer game as well. So I do have a playthrough of this up on the channel, and I will also talk about it in my February 2025 vlog, which should be up soon. This is a tableau building and hand management game that is the 3rd in the so-called Span series of games from Stonemaier Games. It plays 1 to 5 players in 45 to 60 minutes, has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.34, an average rating of 7.8, and my rating of it is a 9.4. I just love this game. It is so much fun. The fish cards are awesome. So in Finspan, you are a marine scientist, and you are documenting the fish species that you find while exploring the world's oceans. The game is played over 4 rounds, which they call weeks, each consisting of 6 turns. On your turn, you're either going to play a fish onto your ocean board, or you're going to dive one of 3 dive sites, activating cards and collecting bonuses along the way. At the end of the game, you score points for game end abilities on your fish you've played in your ocean, eggs, young, schools, and also consumed fish. These are fish where you've played another fish on top of them. So whether you're playing solo or multiplayer, your turns are pretty much going to look the same. The difference in the solo game is that you're playing against an automa, a solo automa called Nautoma, that's super easy to run. It requires pretty much no thought. You just follow instructions on a card for each of her turns. And it will also provide you with different challenge levels. I think there's 5 different challenge levels in the solo game. Anyway, this is just a lot of fun. When I think about the feelings that this invokes when I play it, fun. Fun is what it invokes. So a lot of people, including Stonemaier Games themselves, have said that this is a lighter game than Wingspan. I don't really agree. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that, go watch I have a review at the end of the playthrough. But I don't think it's much heavier. I just think for beginning gamers, it's definitely got a lot going on. Now, if you're a seasoned gamer, it might feel lighter than Wingspan. So take that. Anyway, that was number 8. Finspan. Coming in at number 7 is Verdant. I've played this 13 times. Only 5 of those plays have been solo because I only recently discovered the solo game for this. I do have a playthrough of it up on the channel, and I also talked about it in my July and August 2024 vlogs. This is an open drafting set collection game with pattern building. It plays 1 to 5 players in 45 to 60 minutes. It has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.08, an average rating of 7.3, and my rating of it is an 8.3. In Verdant, you are arranging rooms, houseplants, furniture, and pets, I think that's the full list, in a 5x3 grid of alternating rooms and houseplants. And what you're trying to do is meet the sunlight requirements of the plants, and then there's other placement goals that will earn you points. Each turn, you're going to select a card and token combination and add that card to your growing tableau. And the token you're either going to place into your tableau or possibly use it to help grow your plants. The solo game is a beat your own score game. However, it does have scoring targets, and it also includes solo scenarios that provide additional challenges and also some additional interest. I was really pleasantly surprised by this solo game. I actually discovered the solo game because one of my Patreon supporters had requested a playthrough of it, and I thought, well, I haven't played this solo yet. So I tried it out and I loved it. This is a great solo game. Very relaxing, very puzzly. You have to very much think ahead because of the placement restrictions for the plants and the rooms. And then you're also trying to match up colors and sunlight requirements, and you're doing a little set collection with the tokens. And it's just a lot of fun. And the way that the cards cycle through the card market in the solo game is quite clever. So anyway, that is number 7, Verdant. Coming in at number 6 is Keystone North America. I have played this 7 times. All of those plays have been solo. I don't know why I haven't. I think my partner would really like this one, but I think this might be a little too much for my mom. Anyway, I do have a playthrough up on the channel, and I also talked about it in my very first vlog on the channel from February 2024. This is an open drafting and pattern building game that is quite thinky. It plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 60 minutes. And I say the 1 to 4 players with a caveat. They are coming out with a second edition that plays 1 to 2 players. However, they ostensibly just did that because most people play it either solo or at 2 players. And they were just trying to cut down on costs. But you can actually play the second edition at 4 players if you have 2 copies of the game. Anyway, I only have the first edition, so that's the one that I played. I don't think many of the rules change for the second edition. This has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.24, an average rating of 7.2, and my rating of it is an 8.5. This is a super puzzly, super thinky game with beautiful artwork. The premise of Keystone North America is that you are a biologist working to build an interconnected ecosystem, introducing important keystone animals, and also conducting research at the same time. Really, it's actually just an abstract strategy game with absolutely beautiful artwork and fun puzzly decisions. Though, to be fair, it does come with a solo campaign that does add quite a bit of interest. And it's also based on, ecology field work and conservation biology. On your turn, you draft a card from the display, where the first card is free to take, but other cards will cost you synergy tokens, and the cost increases the further away from that first card that you get. You're then going to place that card into your 4x4 grid of cards, your tableau, and you're trying to fulfill specific placement goals that will change a bit from game to game. The solo scenarios each have a unique premise, and they also have their own objectives that will become increasingly hard as you work through the scenarios. So like I said, I just love this game. It is so much fun, and the artwork is beautiful. It is quite puzzly, so it's one of those games, as is true for many of the games that we're going to be talking about, where it looks very relaxing, and it is. I actually find it very relaxing to play, but it is really thinky. Anyway, that is number 6, Keystone North America. Coming in at number 5 is the newest game on the list, and that is Diatoms. I've played this 6 times. 4 of those plays have been solo. I don't have a video for this yet, but I will have one up on the channel, as well as an interview with the designer coming soon. And I will also talk about it in the February 2025 vlog. This is a pattern building tile placement game. Plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes. It has an average, well, actually, okay, I'm going to tell you the Board Game Geek statistics, but not many people have played this game yet. It was just released to retail March 5th. I actually backed it on Kickstarter, so I've had it for a while, but I didn't get it to the table till earlier this month. So it has an average Board Game Geek weight right now of 2.1. That sounds about right. Maybe 2.3 might be closer. We'll see how it shakes out. It has an average Board Game Geek rating right now of 7.9, but keep in mind that those are all going to be Kickstarter backers, and that's only after 120 ratings. My rating of it right now is an 8.7. It might even go up as I play through the solo commissions. So in Diatoms, you are creating a beautiful tile mosaic that is made up of different shapes and colors. The tiles are representing diatoms. These are single-celled algae with cell walls that are made of glass. So they actually live in glass houses. And those glass houses come in a variety of beautiful shapes. So diatom mosaics are actually a form of microscopic art, where diatoms are very meticulously arranged into very intricate patterns, or very often intricate patterns, on microscope slides. This was particularly popular in the Victorian era, particularly during the mid to late 19th century, where we had improvement of microscopes that were increasingly available to amateur naturalists. On your turn, you place a hexagonal tile into a central area, and that central area is representing a pond where you are collecting diatoms. The shapes, colors, and number of tiles you collect will depend on your tile placement. Any tiles that you collect are placed immediately into your player board with some restrictions, minimal restrictions, on where specific shapes can be placed, but it still leaves a lot of room for creative expression, which is really a lot of the fun of this game. At the end of the game, you will score points based on symmetry and a diversity of colors and shapes, or at least you will in the multiplayer game. The solo mode consists of a series of increasingly difficult pattern objectives that they call commissions. Each one is essentially a puzzle where you need to collect and arrange diatoms to meet particular color, shape, and pattern criteria with minimal unused diatoms left over at the end. So like I said, I backed this game on Kickstarter because of the unique theme. I don't think there are any other games about diatoms out there, certainly not diatom art. So it's very unique in that respect. And the fact that it's a tile placement game. So I don't meet many tile placement games that I don't like. Can't think of any, actually. I'm sure I could think of one if I really thought hard enough. Anyway, I'm so glad that I backed this. I'm also glad it's being released to retail because I wasn't sure when I backed it. That was the reason I backed it. I wasn't sure it would make it to retail, but it's absolutely stunningly beautiful. They did some foil accents on the diatoms themselves, on the tiles. It's really makes them really pretty. And they have this really unique petri dishes to store them in, and they make for easy setup because you just take the lids off and put them out on the table. So very easy to get to the table. I actually got this, I think, a few months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, and it took me until this month to get it to the table, and I really wish I hadn't waited. Oh my goodness, this is such a fun game. In the solo game, I've only made it through the first 4 commissions so far, and they get progressively more intricate as you work through them. And so my estimation of this game might even go up. So we'll see. My mom actually even enjoyed this game. It took her a little bit to catch on to the scoring. The scoring in the multiplayer game can be a little complicated at first. So I suggest you play, if you're playing it multiplayer, just write off your first game as a learning game, because you might not totally understand what you're doing or how to do it best until you score it one time, but then it should all click. Anyway, it has pretty shiny tiles. It has the petri dish storage, additional challenges in the form of judges for the multiplayer game, so it adds a little interest there, and just really fun, beautiful game. That is number 5, Diatoms. Coming in at number 4 is Parks. I've played this, well, I have recorded 13 plays, but I know I've played it more times than that. We actually purchased this in October of 2020, and like I said, I didn't start recording plays until January of 2022. I have played it 6 times solo. That is an accurate count because I only played it earlier this year for the first time solo, and man, I wish I hadn't waited so long, as you can probably tell where it's sitting on the list. I do have a playthrough up on the channel, and as well, I mentioned it in the March and April 2024 vlogs. This is a worker placement set collection game with contracts and plays 1 to 5 players in 30 to 60 minutes, has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.12, an average rating of 7.6, and my rating of it is an 8.6. So in Parks, players are taking on the role of 2 hikers. So you have 2 hikers that you move back and forth on the board. They're trekking trails, they're seeing sights, they're observing wildlife, taking photos, and most importantly, visiting the national parks. On your turn, you're going to move one of your hikers any number of spaces forward on the trail, typically collecting specific types of tokens so that you can use those to visit national parks and also collect gear. There is a second edition of the game that was just announced. I'll talk more about that in a moment. The game I based my ranking on here is the first edition of the game. The first edition has artwork from the 59 Parks print series that is stunning. I love it. There are 48 uniquely illustrated national parks in the game that feature 45 different parks, so a couple of repeats in there. I've visited 26 of those 45 parks, so that's part of the appeal to me, as it brings back a lot of memories as I play the game, so a little bit of nostalgia there. But it's a really fun game, really well regarded as well. So for me, partly because I've visited so many of these parks, this game does a great job of invoking that feeling of visiting the national parks with the artwork and the moving along the trail and the gear and everything. But like I said, that may be partly because I visited them. Other people may see it as a little more mechanical. So I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Solo player turns in this game are similar to the multiplayer game, but instead of other players getting in your way and taking the cards you want, there are 2 rangers. They follow a small set of simple rules that really manages to mimic the feeling of the multiplayer game quite well, though with the added puzzle of being able to predict to some degree some of the things the rangers are going to do and then being able to react to that. Now, you can't predict everything, and you're sort of predicting within a range of things that they might do, but that actually adds to the puzzle in the solo game, which I quite like. You're not actually competing against the rangers for points, which is a shame, but I don't know how they would have done that. I do generally prefer that, but I don't mind beat your own score games, and that's basically what this is, and it has scoring targets, so that's fun. If I'm going to have a beat your own score sort of game, I like having a table of scoring targets to work towards, and this does have that. So we've enjoyed this as a family game for quite some time. Everybody enjoys this one, and like I said, I didn't try the solo mode till earlier this year, and oh my goodness, I wish I hadn't waited so long. This is a super fun solo game. I don't think it gets enough recognition for how fun it is to play solo. So if you're curious about that, go ahead and take a look at my playthrough for it. Anyway, as I mentioned, they recently announced a second edition for the game. My impression is that the primary motivation for a second edition was that their license for using the 59 Parks print series artwork has run out or expired. And then they've taken that opportunity to also do a few rules tweaks, but I haven't done a deep dive into this to see what the differences are. But my impression from sort of scanning the forums was that you can implement the rules tweaks if you have the first edition of the game. So I'm not actually sure I'm going to get the second edition of the game. I like the first edition just fine. Love the solo mode. So anyway, that is number 4, Parks. Coming in at number 3 is Aqua, Biodiversity in the Oceans. This is another beautiful game. I think they all fall into that category, so maybe I'm repeating myself too much about that, but I've played it 10 times. 6 of those plays have been solo. I do have a playthrough up on the channel, and I also talked about it in the April, May, and October 2024 vlogs. This is an open drafting tile placement game with pattern building that has a really cool 3-dimensional aspect to it. Plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes, so pretty quick game. Has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.08, an average rating of 7.2, and my rating of it is a 9.1. I love this game, and our whole family loves this game, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So in Aqua, you are competing to build a beautiful coral reef that will attract a variety of marine creatures. On your turn, you're going to draft a coral tile from the display and add that to your reef. And then you might also attract animals to your ecosystem if you created the correct patterns of coral. Habitats for small animals are created by forming hexagons of the same color for coral. And then reefs, coral reefs are created by forming groups of 4 or more connected corals, so not in a hexagon pattern, of the same color. So large animals can then be placed over sets of small animals, but all of those small animals have to be unique. So the basic solo mode is another beat your own score game. However, there are scoring targets, and it also includes a number of specific scenarios that increase in difficulty as you work through them. So in addition to being beautiful, it's a really fun puzzle, especially because of that 3-dimensional aspect of first you're building out your coral, and then you are attracting your small animals, and how you score your small animals is going to partly depend on how your coral is formed. And then you want to put those small animals into your coral reef system in such a way that you will attract larger animals on top of them to score those as well. So a really fun puzzle, but still relaxing at the same time. And so that is number 3, Aqua, Biodiversity in the Oceans. Coming in at number 2, is a game from 2024, and that is Harmonies. I've played this 23 times. 17 of those plays have been solo, so most of them. This is such a fun game, and the chunky tiles that it has are so satisfying to play with. I do have 2 playthroughs actually up on the channel, one for the official solo mode and one for a fan-made scenario mode that has the same rules, but provides you sets of specific goal cards to work with. And I also mentioned this in the May and July 2024 vlogs. This is an open drafting set collection and pattern building game. Plays 1 to 4 players in about 30 to 45 minutes. It has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.0, an average rating of 8, and my rating of it is a 9.1. So in Harmonies, players are placing these really awesome chunky tokens that are different colors to create a 3-dimensional landscape made up of diverse habitats. And this is where you're going to place a variety of animals. Those animals are represented by cubes, so maybe not thematic in that way, but they work really well, actually. Players are going to take turns drafting a set of 3 tokens from the 3 sets that are available, and then using those tokens to build their landscapes. On their turn, they might also take 1 animal card from the display and place 1 or more animal cubes. Player turns in the official solo mode are pretty much the same as in the multiplayer game. As in the multiplayer game, you have 3 sets of 3 tokens to choose from each turn, but at the end of your turn, the 2 you didn't choose are discarded, which makes for some pretty tough decisions sometimes. Scoring the official solo mode is a combination of your raw points, the side of the board that you play on, and whether you used the nature spirit cards in your game. And I have to say that the official scoring mode is not actually all that satisfying. I think I would rather just keep track of my score and which side of the board I played with, and maybe if I used animal spirit cards and which one, and sort of just keep track of that. And I think that's what makes the fan-made scenarios all that more interesting, because each of them have scoring targets that you can work towards, and I do like scoring targets. so there's that. But it's just a really fun, relaxing puzzle. So I don't play it so much for the scoring as just the experience of puzzling together and making your landscapes and fulfilling the objectives of the animal cards so that you can place your animals into the landscape, and trying to maximize your scoring for both your landscape and for your animal cards. Just really fun puzzle. And that is number 2, Harmonies. And finally, coming in at number 1 is Meadow. And I know for a lot of people, this is at least their top 5 solo nature-themed games. I've played this 7 times. 6 of those have been solo, and I really need to get it back to the table soon. I actually have the downstream expansion that I haven't tried yet, so I'd like to incorporate that. I do have a playthrough up on the channel, and I also talked about it in my March 2024 vlog. This is a tableau building hand management set collection game with open drafting. It plays 1 to 4 players in 60 to 90 minutes, has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.25, an average rating of 7.7, and my rating of it is a 9.3. This is just, it's a fun game, and it is relaxing, and it is really puzzly. It's like the intersection of all 3 of those things. The premise of Meadow is that you are wandering around the countryside, observing the animals, plants, and landscapes that you're coming across. The game consists of 6 or 8 rounds, depending on the player count. The solo game plays just like the 2-player game, except that your opponent is a very easy to manage AI named Rover that takes cards you might want, as well as spaces, from the central board. Each player starts the round with 5 action tiles, or if you're playing a 4-player game, 4 action tiles. On your turn, you're going to place an action tile in an unoccupied space around the campfire or around the main board. If you place your tile in a space around the main board, you're going to choose a card that matches the row or column for the space that you chose. And then optionally, you might also play a card into your tableau if you meet the requirements. If you choose to place your action tile around the campfire, you will take the specific action that is indicated on the action tile you placed. And so they're all unique actions, although there is 1 wild action. So I love the card selection mechanism in this. So you have your main board with notches, 1 notch, well, actually 2 notches for each row, 1 on each side, and then 1 notch for each column. And wherever you place your action tile, you're going to choose your card from that row or column. And this same mechanism is used in a game called Quadropolis, which I have enjoyed for quite some time. Another really fun game, but not nature themed, so not on here. So this is a very strategic game. To do well, you have to be planning ahead, but you also have to be ready to pivot, to change your plans, or at least have a backup plan or 2. And I love the way that you play your cards. So for instance, if you want to play a bird card into your tableau, it might require that you have a beetle or a snail and probably also a tree. So whatever animals you're going to be playing or plants you're going to be playing into your tableau, their requirements are going to sort of match their role in the environment. And so that's really fun. And the watercolor art is absolutely beautiful. So even though this game is super thinky and requires a lot of strategic planning, the artwork just gives it this really relaxing feel when you play it. I love playing this game. In fact, when I was writing up my notes for this and choosing games, I thought, I haven't played Meadow in so long, and I thought, I wonder if my mom might like this one. We might get her to play this one. We'll see. Anyway, I definitely want to get it back to the solo table, and I definitely want to play the downstream expansion. And I don't have it yet, but there's I forget what it's called, a storybook or something expansion. Anyway, I really want to play that. I think it adds scenarios or a campaign mode. So that looks like it'll be really fun. Anyway, that is number 1, Meadow. And of course, any list I do would not be complete without at least one honorable mention. So my honorable mention, some of you may have guessed if you noticed it wasn't on the list, and that is Waypoints. I love playing this game solo. It just didn't rise up above the other games. It might have come in 11th. I actually can't remember. Maybe I'll put it down in the description or the comments. But I've played this 31 times, all solo. What I love about this game is you can get it to the table quickly. It's just a roll and write game with movement points where you're hiking through the wilderness, or there's actually 4 different maps. So you're doing different things like skiing or hiking through the wilderness or scuba diving. It plays, they say 1 to 100 players, but really any number of players. So I do have a couple of play-alongs on the channel, so I encourage you to check that out. It plays in 20 to 40 minutes. It has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.28, an average rating of 7.7, and my rating of it is an 8.2. And so this is actually my most played solo game. So I've actually played Cascadia more times, but not more times solo. So this is my most played solo game. Well, yeah, okay, I don't know. Maybe Arc Nova has beat it out, but we'll talk about that in the other video. So there's a little teaser for you. Anyway, I also want to mention, so in my January 2024 vlog, I asked people, I told them this video was coming up, and I said, well, put down in the comments your favorite nature-themed games. And, I didn't limit it to solo, so I don't know that all of these play solo, but I just want to mention the games that people mentioned. So Meadow was actually the most mentioned, 4 times. And then we had Forest Shuffle was mentioned 3 times. I haven't played Forest Shuffle yet at all, let alone solo. So that's why that wasn't on the list. It wasn't even considered. Verdant was mentioned a couple times. Keystone North America, Cascadia, Harmonies, also Barren Park. I don't know if Barren Park has a solo mode, but we do enjoy playing it multiplayer. In fact, we just played it a couple weeks ago. So that's a really fun one. New York Zoo, another family favorite here. A Gentle Rain, which is a really nice, I have it back here. That is a really nice solo game. It just didn't make it into the top 10, but I do enjoy it. Very relaxing. Sort of more of a Zen activity, actually. And then we also have mentioned Lands of the Mesozoic, yay. Songbirds, which I have not played yet. Reef, which I don't even own, so I haven't played that one yet. And Sikatsu. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Anyway, I have not played that one either. Do not own it, so was not up for the running, but it looks beautiful. So there. Other ones that were mentioned but may or may not be on my top 5 list. Arc Nova. Okay, so if you've heard any of my videos, you probably know Arc Nova is going to be in my top 5. But anyway, Wingspan, Life of the Amazonia, which I have not yet played solo, and Earth. So all of those have an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.5 or above. Earth might be borderline. I grouped it with the others, but now I can't remember what the rating is. I don't have it written down here. So coming soon will be my top 5 medium to heavyweight solo nature-themed games, or science nature-themed. So that'll be coming soon. Keep your eye out for it. So anyway, those are my top 10 plus 1 honorable mention in the light to medium weight category for nature-themed games, solo mode only. I would love to hear what your favorite nature-themed games are down in the comments, especially solo, but multiplayer too. I learn about new games this way, which is really fun, and I think other people enjoy learning about games that way as well. So let us know down in the comments. And that is all I have for you in this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!